Listen, fellas, thanks very much for joining us here in Gale Force Winds. I'm Alan Dale, and I really am interested in having a conversation around advancing that digital workforce. You know, there's a lot of people out there now trying to find their future in tech, and I can't wait to discuss that with both of you. So why don't you guys introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Sure. Ajay Pande, responsible for industry engagement here at Keyin College. And just as you said, the digital era is upon us, and what we're doing is we're shaping the digital workforce of the future by providing workers with the skills they need for the digital era. So it's quite exciting. It's quite a transition here in the province, and we're helping to fuel a talent pool.
How about yourself?
I'm Dean MacIsaac. I work with the Genesis Center. So the Genesis Center is a incubator for technology within the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. So my role is success manager. So for companies who come in and they come through our first couple of stages of programming where they learn how to build a business, they get the idea of what it means to get traction and talk to their customers. Eventually they're graduating into my program where we really work on helping them scale and hopefully achieve over $1 million a year in annual recurring revenue. They're usually technology companies and usually focus primarily on the digital aspects of creating value for their customers.
You know, I love that. I love what we're talking about here already. It's kind of a wonderful collaboration of government, industry, and academia all swirling around the same area to find that good solution space. And that's really what we're talking about right now, and that is digital transformation. You know, in your opinion, what does digital transformation mean?
Well, I mentioned this earlier. I think that Newfoundland is poised to do something really interesting where we're coming from a historical kind of set of industries and we're moving to more of a knowledge-based economy. And in order to do that, I mean, the digital world is a giant part of the knowledge economy and how we're going to use digitization in a lot of different things, in a lot of industries, in a lot of unique ways to kind of bring our workforce and the prosperity of the province forward. That's what I think of when you ask that question.
You know, and it's going to require, you know, a shift in the way we educate people and things, which really speaks to, I guess, digital literacy. Aj, you want to speak to that digital literacy? Kind of what does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And it can mean different things to different sectors as well, right? So if you're in the technology community, you're leveraging technology to create new products, new services. But you might be working for municipalities or some other jurisdiction where you need digital literacy skills because everything is changing so quickly. So it does change from different sectors. What we're finding though is also the modality of learning is changing. Mm-hmm. You know, people don't have as much time to do a traditional course and they're looking for ways to upskill quickly. And so as a private college, that's something we've been able to offer to the larger learning community is the ability with micro-credential programming, and we'll talk a little bit about that, really smaller bite-sized pieces of content and learning which help people upskill from a digital perspective.
A very good point. So, and I mean, you're living in this world. You're dealing with a lot of companies that are moving fast. They need that quick upskilling, as Aj talks about. But tell me about your appreciation and your thoughts on micro-credentialing.
Well, where my head goes is I originally enrolled in university to be in the computer science program. And after a year or so, I became very disillusioned. It was a long slog. It was big. It was heavy. It was arduous. I ended up pivoting and doing business instead and leading down a different pathway. But I think that's kind of the point, is that the micro-credentials allows you to get away from undertaking this giant life-size thing where you can do to your point, the bite-sized pieces. You know, I'm interested in learning more about AI. I can take an AI course in a couple of weeks and learn enough to know whether or not I want to continue or you know, learn something I can apply to my daily life. It makes a lot of sense to do it in these bite-sized chunks. When I talk to founders or people about change, you don't change all at once. You do a step at a time, right? It just makes sense.
It sounds like a brilliant approach for sure. You know, but I guess my head goes to, how do you know what to teach? How do you know how to create these credentials? Like, where does that come from? Where do you get the ideas for what to provide industry? How does that work out?
And that's a great question, and that's something we don't do in a vacuum. So together with the Tech and L and the Genesis community, what we've done with any of the micro-credentials we've created, whether it's AI, tech sales, etc., we've worked directly with the community to understand what are some of the gaps and needs in Newfoundland and Labrador today. And based on those gaps, we identified, can we create curriculum? So for instance, tech sales, as an example, just being able to sell, there's a real gap in sales community here locally in Newfoundland and Labrador having the skill set. There's a lot of great people that can sell, but the process that goes around selling is not well known. And so what we're able to do is create a credential which then helps lower the burden on organizations in terms of they don't have to apply the resourcing to ramp people up. We can give that skill set now. So we're filling the gap as an example. And so we work directly with subject matter experts as well as we build that curriculum, make sure it's matching the need. After the course is done, we get feedback. So it's a continuous cycle, but it's never done in a vacuum. It's done in concert with the organizations here locally.
Yeah, that's very, that's a responsive approach to providing this type of education to people. We talked about upskilling. So, in your opinion, again, you're on the cold face of this whole thing. You're dealing with the companies. Who do you think these micro credentials are for?
So from my lens, everything we do at Genesis is founder focused because our founders are our customers. They're the people we care about. Our role really is to help them become the best version of the company or a founder that they can be. So when Aj mentioned the sales credentials, like that's founder focused. We have so many companies coming in where they have great technology, great skill sets in all these domains, but sales is a very specific and unique thing. We're responding by saying we're cheering. We're loving that. That is the topic that is brought to our founders that they can then go quickly learn something and say, look, we've got this skill set now. We can actually take that and apply it. Because there are only so many of us at Genesis that can help these companies, and what we're helping them with is the same things that the micro credentials are actually bringing and teaching them. So it's kind of like a community moving all in the same direction, and it's really nice.
There'll be people watching this conversation, of course, and they'll see themselves maybe, that fits me perfectly, or there'll be other influencers, whether that's supervisors, managers, parents, whatever, aunts and uncles that'll watch this and say, so-and-so could really use this. So I guess a question to you, how do they get access to it? Where do they find this program?
Yeah, and we've been promoting this program through social media, through other venues as well, a lot of word of mouth as well. The programming is available. The great thing about this program, just to step back as well, it's funded through Government of Canada. These are typically $3,000 courses, but today they're free. Now, there's a window of opportunity because that programming, Find Your Future in Tech, started last year. It ends March 31st. And we've had tremendous uptake for micro-credentials, almost 2,000 micro-credentials registered to date. We only have about 200 left to fill, so the seats are running out, but we want to make sure people have awareness that these micro-credentials are available. So things like quality assurance, quality control, tech sales, artificial intelligence, AWS, so cloud computing, cybersecurity. We have 5 micro-credentials that are available, but they're available for free right now. And this is really important to founders, and I'll pass it over to you as well, because you talk about this quite well, some of the challenges founders face in terms of funding and having access to it. This is free and it's available today. So we see a window of opportunity that we want to share with the community.
Yeah, so to that point, one of the most common issues faced by early stage founders or founders up until they become very successful is access to capital, access to money. How do we get money in order to do X, Y, or Z? And frequently the use of that money is we need coders, we need people to work on sales, we need to learn about Amazon Web Services. So instead of having to find sources of money and then find a pathway to learn or gain those skill sets for their teams or for themselves, right now in Newfoundland, with the partnerships of TechNL, Keyin, Genesis, the government of Newfoundland Labrador, all these wonderful parties working together, founders now have access to this stuff. They don't have to go find the money, then find how to do it. It's just available, it's there for free, and they're taking advantage of it and they're getting the benefits, which is really fantastic.
And it's seamless. Like if you see that QR code that's on the screen, you can register there. So you click on that and you have access to
and time is running out, as you so rightly point out. I'm going to give you the last word here, Dean, and the question is, I understand what we're doing here, and I even understand how we're getting it done. But I guess my question to you is, why? Why are you in this conversation? And before we went on camera, you sense the passion in this. So what's your why here?
My why for this conversation?
Yeah, your why in general for this digital transformation in Newfoundland.
So it's a great question. I really think that, as I said earlier, I think Newfoundland is poised to take advantage of digital transformation as a way to change how we are as a province. We've all grown up with, the historical, the fishing background. I grew up in Labrador City, so the mining industry. Those industries are important. They're not going away, but there are limits of scale. There are limits of what people can achieve and do in those things. With the digital transformation, the doors are open. So if I'm a person living in some very rural community, I have internet access, I can change my entire future. And that wasn't always the case. And I think that's a really wonderful thing.